Good afternoon, everybody. I welcome you all to Agile Network India's January events. And now we are having a panel discussion from Kolkata chapter about program management in an agile way. And we are really glad to have Kunal Das, Chandrama Ganguly, and Subrata Rai Chaudhary in the panel. And we have Arindam Chakraborty moderating the panel. And before we move on to the interesting discussion, I would like to thank our founding sponsors, Innovation Roots, which is a leading consulting and training service provider and helping organizations to achieve business agility and beyond. And I would like to thank our sponsor, Gile, which is a product by Tata Consultancy Services, and it is a cloud-based solution for agile project management and planning and having the DevOps capabilities as well. You can find out the details at Agile Network India's sponsor page for both the sponsored. And now I would like to call upon Arindam to moderate the panel, and I invite all the panelists over the webcam and microphone.
Thank you, Nupur, and good afternoon, everyone. I am Arindam Chakraborty with electronics and communication engineering background, having few decades of IT experience and working as an agile practitioner, maybe close to a decade. I started my career as a hardware and network support engineer and then worked as a QA test lead, project manager, scrum master, agile coach, and trainer. And nowadays, I'm working as an agile process manager. I started my career in a printing media house, that is one of the leading printing media house in eastern part of India, and then worked for Fortune 500 MNC, and presently working in a MNC which is actually Fortune 100 best place to work. That's all about my brief introduction, and now I would request Chandrima to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Hoping everyone is doing great. It's really a great, platform to present myself over here. I'm Chandrima, currently working with an MNC that is running its operations for telecom service providers. And I'm currently into automation and robotics, having an experience of around 13 years. So with my current role that I am into the discovery processes and also working as a Scrum Master and a Scrum Lead in my current role. So that's pretty much about me, Arindam.
Thank you so much, Chandrima. And then I would request Subrata to introduce himself.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I am an agile coach from a product company, and I belong to the same company as Arindam. And he has already, taught a little bit about the organization that I belong to. I as a coach, coach multiple teams, scrum masters, product owners, and leaders cutting across the organization. I am a safe program consultant and a certified scrum professional. I also have around 2 decades of experience, and the agile journey has been for around 12 years, and I have been involved in various agile rollouts as well as scaling practices. So this was the boring part. Hailing from Kolkata, I am a soccer enthusiast. I love reading books and I love traveling. And one fun fact is I have a beagle.
Thank you, Subrata, and then I would request Kunal to introduce himself.
Hello, good afternoon to all of you. And I'm Kunal. I'm working currently at Lexmark India. I have a software industry experience of 20 plus years, mainly as a software developer and in some development team lead leadership roles. And then I'm working as an agile scrum master for the last 2 plus years in my current organization. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Kunal. So thank you all once again, and I welcome you all into this session. So on this beautiful and bright sunny afternoon, it's actually sunny and really beautiful in Kolkata. I don't know about other part of India, but I hope it is also very nice today. So before we take a deep dive in the ocean of program management in an agile way, let us first focus on what is program management and how it is different from project management. And hence, I would like to sail through our conversation with the conventional project management as well. That means waterfall kind of thing. So make the thing more lucid, I would like to take an example of modern banking system that we are using these days. But if I go back 20 years from now, maybe situation was not like that as we are using today. So that time government had a directive that would be having a modern digital banking system that we people are using these days, and all the banks, like they were working towards the same goal. So if you imagine a bank which is having two different projects running, one for the implementation of the ATM transactions and another one for the net banking transaction. Now you can understand like how these two projects need to be kept in sync, because if somebody has withdrawn the entire money using his or her ATM card from an ATM, then he or she cannot do any net banking transaction, right? And then once again, to reset your net banking password, you need to have your ATM card details so that you get an SMS and then you can reset your password. So you can understand how these two projects should be interlinked, and they should be always should be in sync when you are developing something. So keep them in sync under one umbrella. We used to have something, and that particular umbrella is called a program. Similarly, we can have multiple projects under the same umbrella, which is actually a program, which are working for the same goal. Similarly, multiple programs we can keep under one portfolio. Also, like one project can be kept directly under the portfolio, but let us not digress too much on the portfolio matter, and let us try to concentrate on the program management. That is actually our today's topic. So now if I go through the conventional waterfall project management, when people used to do that, so they used to take a big chunk of requirement and then they used to do the entire thing maybe after 6 months and 1 year. When they used to come up, by that time, like the entire requirement of the market has been changed, and that is the reason why like this agile methodology started coming up in the market, and people realized there are some good part of this, and the software industry mostly they started switching from the conventional waterfall project to the agile project management. Now soon they started shifting their journey from waterfall model to like this kind of agile project management. Soon they realized there should be a need of program management in an agile way. So that is our today's topic, and they understood that there should be a binding force to keep all the projects which are aligned and working for the same goal, that is the program. So that is how these things actually evolved, and that come to the picture, and gradually it has become very popular. But to do that, you need to change the mindset of the entire organization. You need to coach your people, you need to give proper training to the people, and there are other impediments also that we need to remove. We need to change the entire process, the entire culture. So that is how this program management in an agile way started evolving. So with this, I would like to go to the panelists, and I would like to give them some like some of their experience, share some of their experience. Like, what do they think, like when a company and an organization trying to implement project management in an agile way, what are the challenges that company might face, and what are some of the key solutions they can suggest that they have experienced and they have solved in their own industry? So Kunal, could you kindly give us some example that you have faced in your organization or in your experience while implementing program management in an agile way?
Yes, definitely, Arindam. In my experience, I've seen that there are two main challenges in implementing agile program management. First one is lack of central force for the coordination. In the project level, we have Scrum team with PO, Scrum Master, and other defined roles and responsibility. In program level, however, as I've seen, that it's more like a collegium with either no identified specific roles, or the responsibility is not very much well defined. So that goes one way. And the second challenge that I have faced, that is the confined outlook of the teams within their own projects and not seeing the bigger picture that much. is in a program, multiple teams work in a tandem. Either they need to reach a common goal together, or there is an upstream downstream kind of relationships. So if there is a lack of harmony in their work, it impacts the productivity of the overall program. So I have seen these two main things. So that's what I want to say here.
Okay, thank you, Kunal. And then Chandrima, can you please
Well,
analyze some of the
yeah,
methods?
sure. I was just about to, comment on few of the points. Whatever Kunal said is absolutely, I completely agree to it. However, to add on to it, there are certain points like when we actually, try and implement agile in the current organization. Out of my own experience, I will share few things like the expectation from agile. Agile is a new thing when we are trying to, set it up in the as a new methodology. So the expectation is like at times it's sky high, or at times it's not very realistic. Like for example, it is kind of expected that anything, any problem, any issues can be mitigated using agile or implementing agile, right? So if there is already a perennial issue which is deep rooted in our organization, for example, I'm just giving a hypothetical example, like if there is already a issue with retaining developers, good developers, quality developers in the team. Those problems cannot be mitigated by agile. No way, it cannot be. That's one issue. That's one area or a challenge that we face. Apart from that, there is a resistance to change. What we always see, the mindset is always, kind of blocked. We tend to, with the conventional methodology that we keep following, so we generally get into a comfort zone and we don't try to move out of it. So that's where we tend to, as a human, we tend to resist, and that's exactly what happens when we try and implement agile or any new thing in the organization. That resistance we mostly face. Okay, to add on to it, there are a couple of more things that I would like to share also. Like even I have seen that we have changed it, getting into the agile mode, agile methodology, but I have seen that the old techniques also plays a role. The remnants do stay. There is a saying, right? I'm sure we all are aware that old habit dies hard. So that's what happens. And the old habits or the old methodology, the old techniques always, stays in somewhere, even if we are working with agile. Also, there is an expectation setting that needs to be done. Like when we are introducing agile and implementing agile, we give training to the teams and to the members of the team. But we somewhere I feel that the client also, the business also needs to be in sync or at par with the understanding of what agile is. It's not that okay, agile can make, or if with the implementation of agile, anything can be changed at any given moment, any expectation can be set right or something. No, that's something, those few expectation or how the agile work or what is the methodology of agile, those things also needs to be taken care of. Okay. And last but not the least, there are many points, but just coming in my mind, I have seen something that we do care about the aesthetics or the artifacts of the process about agile too much. Like agile is more of operation oriented than process, than documentation. We believe in operation more, okay, than into process part. But yes, when we are setting up agile, more emphasis is given, like okay, are the stand-ups happening, or are the retros happening, or are these things happening properly, instead of how many what is the development that we have seen in the kind of exact process or into the process, what we are trying to bring in. So these are the few things that I would like to highlight. Maybe some other, like Shubhrata can say something on this, throw some more light on it, onto it, or to add on to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would tend to agree with what Kunal said and what Chandrima said. All very good points. And for example, Kunal talked about lack of role clarity, and Chandrima talked about there is the inherent resistance within the human beings to resist change. They generally don't tend to accept new things very easily. Based on my experience having worked in multiple organizations, I have seen one of the major issues when a number of teams are working together for a as a part of a program is the lack of alignment. For example, individual teams are given the freedom to work on their their architecture, their usability, etc. But when we are talking about a program, there should be at least some basic level of guidance that should be provided so that there is a alignment. So there should be a common goal, a common objective, just like what Kunal said. And also, when say individual modules or solutions are being developed by the constituent teams, I have seen, at least in one of the organizations, that when it is being delivered to the customer without much testing, etc., there is a tendency to fail. That's because there is a lack of common demo, say, where all the products should work together in harmony, and the software is really working. So some kind of system thinking I have seen lacking at the program level. And also another thing is, because the teams are all working in silos, there should be some mechanism to provide a common visibility so that they can all ultimately refer back to something that is common, something that is very transparent, so that as a program, really all the teams can move together and march together.
Yeah, Shubhrato, that's a very nice point, and that reminded me a story of my own. Maybe 10 years ago, it has happened with me. Like, I purchased a policy from one of the insurance company, and their system was like, first premium you should pay in cash, and then onwards they can deduct it from your bank or from your credit card. So I gave them the authorization to deduct the premium then onwards from my credit card. And after 6 months, all of a sudden, I realized that they are not deducting my premium on time. And then a month later, I got a, defaulter notice that you have not paid the amount on time and your policy is, cancelled. So I talked to my, the agent, and then I realized like the company who has actually developed this particular application for them, that is also one of the major leading company of our country. I don't want to name that. So they had a flaw in the system. Like, I was the only person who gave the authorization through credit card, and remaining customers they have given from their bank directly, so they can debit from their bank. But this particular one was actually never tested, and because of that, it was there in the system. The actual amount was not deducted on time, and then system generated a defaulter notice for me. And so they once again, revert everything and apologize me, and then say, sir, we have taken this particular thing of yours as our one of the use case in future, so that this doesn't happen. So this really happens in life. So with that, actually, Shubhrato, I would like to know, and from others panelists, like, what is your experience that some of the method that we can use to resolve this kind of dependencies in the agile team that are the part of the program? So can anyone of you highlight something?
Arindam, before moving on to that, since we talked about the problems, will it be helpful if we talk about some of the solutions that we have seen that has worked really in different organizations?
Yeah, I think we can go with that.
Yeah, so let us take them one by one. Kunal talked about lack of role clarity. So in one of the organizations, they were really very serious about having this rollout done in a correct way, and they actually did carry out role clarity workshops, where in one of the organizations I have seen, they created a process level leader, a super scrum master kind of thing, who was charged with all the responsibilities for coordinating and facilitation at the program level. And with respect to the requirements part, a small that particular super scrum master has to be one individual, it's not a team. So that was what was done in that organization. As per the requirement part, it was a team of people who looked after the requirements, talked to the business, and created a backlog for the program. For bringing about the architectural and usability alignment, there was a small team, a very small team of architects and usability experts who provided the very basic guidelines of architecture. Remember, they were working on a thin line. They had to be very balanced so that there's a balance between autonomy and alignment. And so, but that really worked in that organization. So this is with respect to role clarity. Talking about what Chandrima talked about, people generally tend not to accept things very quickly. uh, I have seen in that particular organization, they also did extensive trainings, and also before rolling out, they started to sell the idea. There was a small committee that was put up, and they had numerous meetings at different levels. And my experience was that at the team level, people are quick learners and they really accepted the things. And at the top level, they really understood the benefits, and they were also very easy to, bring them onto the team, so to say. But it's the middle management who generally sabotage things. So if you really want to make something happen, you should bring all of them into your team, including the middle management, and act in such a way that they are also taking decisions. At least act in such a way that they are also taking decisions, they are also part of this entire movement, so to say, and the chances of success will be manifold. I talked about that lack of alignment. So in one of the organizations, there was a alignment meeting that was done, say, every quarter, so that there is a common objective and a common goal for all the teams. For the another point, that is the demo part, there were regular demos that were done by all the teams bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, to find out whether things are really working. And at the end of a quarter, uh, with a very big bang, all the stakeholders, all the sponsors, etc., they used to come and attend that particular big demo, and it was done from a staging environment as close as possible to the actual production. So that went pretty well. uh, and as for the also, I am missing out the visibility part. A program board kind of thing was created with the features. It's a program Kanban board, and there were different states, and the features moved from one state to another, and it was transparent to all the teams and also the stakeholders.
Okay,
Thank you.
Subrata has mentioned some very good points, and I have some curiosity about, I mean, one of the things that he said, that Subrata, you have mentioned the role of a super scrum master. Um, Actually, we know that a scrum master works with a project. His main role includes looking for the overall productivity, ensuring the collaboration and the impediment removal for the team. But this team is usually a cohesive team. So how do you think that a super scrum master kind of role can do all these things for the whole program? I mean, I have the curiosity here.
Yeah.
So you want to
Kunal,
set up the extra responsibilities of that super scrum master, right? If I understood correctly.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Yes, Subrat.
that's a very good and pertinent question. From what I have seen, the job of that super scrum master or the program level process leader is at least 5 times more complex as compared to that of scrum masters at the team level. They were facilitating things at the program level. They were conducting the meetings. They set out a program calendar kind of thing. They were talking to the individual scrum masters, the individual product owners, and also the requirement analyst team at the program level, the architect team, the usability team, etc. And also, while the teams were cooking up the software during that quarterly period, uh, he or she used to arrange for WSJF sessions to prioritize and make ready the next set of requirements, so that can be worked upon by the teams in the upcoming quarter. So that was a forward looking thing that he or she was also doing. And also, there were impediments at the program level that needed to be resolved. Either she was the action item owner for those impediments, or she made sure that at least there were people who were assigned these impediments who were working on them, and she used to regularly follow up on them at the syncs, the PO sync, or say Scrum of Crumbs and thing like that. So did I answer your question, Kunal?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so Subrata, you are talking about that a super scrum master kind of role, and then we are having some kind of dependencies, like interdependent things actually across different projects. So I would curious to know if any one of you can highlight anything like how this kind of dependencies, like can be resolved across the project, which are actually part of an agile team. Can any one of you please answer that?
Okay, maybe I can begin this one. So again, talking from experience, I have seen. I was talking about that big alignment meeting. So in the as a part of the output of that big alignment meeting, one of the aims was to find out all the dependencies that each of the teams has, and then plot them in a board. It can be a simple whiteboard. Probably it's not possible given the dire situation we are in now, but at least an Excel sheet or maybe a Miro board where you can plot out the dependencies. Maybe there are different features and one feature is dependent on another feature. You can plot them out with the milestones and all the teams, etc., and have regular discussion based on these dependencies in the sinks that I talked about. So that was one way. Another thing was the features. When they were being defined, a section of the feature, they meticulously used to mention the uh, dependencies that the feature had on other features, on other things, so that when the feature was being moved to the implementing stage, at least those dependencies were well known, and there are people who are working on them, or there will be teams who will be working on them.
Okay, so I would like to take some of the relevant questions that are already coming up in the panel. So someone asked, like Subroto talked about Super Scrum Master role. Is it the RTE role in SAFe? So Subroto, would you like to answer this or should I answer?
Uh, yeah, it is more or less. I was trying to be agnostic of any framework. It is somewhat similar to the SAFe framework. And yes, I can see another question that whether the chief scrum master, he has to be an expert in the WSJF technique. Ideally, yes, if he or she knows that, that's good. But remember that her role is limited to the facilitation. There will be product owners and product requirement analyst experts who will be coming into the meeting, and she can hand over the responsibility of doing that WSJF thing to one of them, but at least he should facilitate the meeting. That's what I was trying to point out.
Yeah,
Also I
normally
can,
actually
yeah,
marketing
please.
people or the technical leader, they, like dev six kind of people, they come to this and they would be playing a game. Actually there is an x-axis and y-axis. In y-axis you are having the things which are actually like more demanding, and in x-axis wise, like when you can, what is the time to market. So they vote on that, and based on that it is actually like decided like which one we are going to take first and which are going to take next. And Subroto rightly said that the duty of that super scrum master, or what you are talking about, RTE in SAFe, is the responsibility of that person to facilitate that kind of a meeting. Am I right, Subroto?
Yes, facilitate, and also ensure that the next set of features are really ready before that alignment meeting that I was talking
Right,
about. So that
right.
the teams are well fed, to put it that way, that they are really not starved of requirements.
Right. So I would like to take a few more questions. Like it was addressed to me, like program management. Do you mean the various projects to the same customer, or you mean that various products on one solution, or do you mean that meaning of distributed team? Actually, it depends on the situation. Like for example, the one I was talking about, this banking system actually. So you are actually it depends on, like if you are addressing many customer and for the same goal actually, so you can keep many projects under one program actually. But if the goals are totally different, then you'll have to have different programs, and maybe for one particular customer you might have 2 or 3 different goals, so you can align your programs accordingly. And anything else? Do you think, guys, we can take any relevant question from this?
I can see a question. What should be the frequency for aligning teams? That can vary from organization to organization. I have seen in my experience that some of the programs do it quarterly, some do it say every 4 months, some even there is a particular program in our organization which does it every 2 months. So it's a common understanding that should be done at the beginning, again facilitated by those program level leaders, and whatever works for that particular program.
So I think we have already answered another question, like how do you how to align different teams towards the common business goal with respect to development, testing, and delivery. So I think this already we have answered. So
Yeah,
let us.
Arindam, that's a very good question. I would like to add on something over there. So, very interestingly, he or she has mentioned that how are the teams aligned to the business. So, when the alignment meetings are going to happen, it should be attended by everyone, all the team members, and even the stakeholders, the sponsors. And here it would be, I have seen that in some of the organizations, the sponsors at the beginning of the meeting set up the tone. They tell what is the business goal that they are trying to achieve within the say coming 3 months, so that everything else falls in line with that. The requirement analysts prioritize the features according to that particular goal. What are the competitors doing? Maybe a SWOT analysis has been done based on that. So those things all come into play in that alignment meeting.
Okay, so we have seen there are some dependencies, like there are some other issues also we have seen in an organization which has implemented the things in an agile way, the program management, and like the human resources and like the other hardware resources. So how do we things that those things are actually distributed among the entire team? Chandrima, can you please enlighten something?
Yeah, sure. When we actually, work in one team or in an organization, working with technology, at this point in time, I would just like to say and begin that majorly we are nowadays technology agnostic. So if I say that a person is working with one technology, which is, for example, cognitive, okay, so and there are other technologies also which has been worked upon in the similar lines like RPA, machine learning, blockchain, and low code, all these things. So it really it's quite important that the person should actually be cross skilled, so that, for example, if the person working in cognitive area at this point in time, not having sufficient project or not having much of things to do, so the person can be utilized into a different domain, into a different mode, or into the particular technology that he or she is aware of or cross skilled with. But in if the person is not cross skilled, then in that case it's like a person who's not having much of project or much of work will be low in its occupancy and utilization. And on the other end, the other team which is too much loaded with work and too much loaded with the demand is high, the work demand, or the client is extremely pushy, so that way that becomes difficult for them to meet up the targets or meet up the timeline. So it's always a win-win situation in both aspects, be it organization or be it the employee who's working, to get cross skilled, because the employee also gets to learn different other technology, unless and until, because training really doesn't help every time just to know everything. We also need hands-on experience. Unless and until there is a hands-on experience, we don't get to understand how things are happening or how the technology is working. So that is where I would say that cross skilling really plays a major role when we actually say that, okay, the cross skilling is, if it is required or not. And yes, to counter that, somewhere I would say that workload can be an issue, but of course if the resource is categorized, or maybe kind of segregation is done, that okay, 50% the person will be working on this particular technology, and the 50% or 25%, whatever it is, percentage wise kind of bucketization is done, then it becomes easy for the person to prioritize as well. So that's my call actually.
Okay, so Kunal, can you enlighten something from your experience?
Yeah. Actually, I was thinking about that, and then I agree that means cross training is actually important, really important. But simultaneously, I have a counterbalancing experience here. See, resources are shared. See, resources are shared to, increase the efficiency. But however, all the resources are not equal. It's easier to share the physical resources like the devices across teams. No issues. Actually, we can plan to share the devices across many teams. In our case particularly, we maintain a spreadsheet kind of thing for it. But however, when it comes to people, all works are not the same type. Some roles like the Scrum Master, the technical writers, and maybe the usability, can be easily shared across teams to some extent. But we need to be cautiously evaluate when dealing with the core team members like the developers and the QA. This is mainly because of the two factors I want to place here. In my experience, I've seen that number one, everybody needs a switch over time in terms of wrapping or closing a work in a project and then getting to reinitiated to the next one. And that means that some time and energy is gone in transit there. And secondly, in my experience, I've seen another type of challenges which comes once in a while. Suppose a resource is shared 50-50 between two teams, and one of the projects have the critical time when they expect or demand the resource to be temporarily more involved in their project. If there is lack of coordination or mismatch in expectation between the two teams, it can be very stressful for that involved resource there. So, I want to say that both the things needs to be considered. I definitely agree that cross training is important, and that then also it increases the efficiency when you share the resources, but we need to be cautious. That's what I want to say.
I completely agree with what you said, Kunal. But the thing is that, as I already said, just to reiterate, prioritization is really important. That's something nobody would do apart from the employee who's working, and also the manager or the leadership skill also plays a role, comes in place. And yes, another feature of cross skilling, I just would like to add, if any of the technology goes redundant any of the time, unless and until the person is cross skilled, so the person might feel kind of in a back seat. So that also kind of cross skilling can help a person from not being redundant for that particular moment, or maybe in that particular era or the genre in which they are working. Yeah. And yeah, you said that there could be a challenge in switching and shifting. Definitely it takes time for anybody to adjust with the kind of flow of any of the team. But yeah, as long as we can actually pull ourselves out of the comfort zone, and with some extra effort, I think that can be mitigated. That's to an extent a bit of person specific as well, and of course the leader who's leading the team, or maybe the scrum master, because scrum master is always said to be a servant leader, right? So that how the person is dealing the team or leading the team.
Okay.
Arindam,
Can you
may
give
I,
me some?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was hearing what Kunal was saying and was what Chandrima was saying, and both of them have made very valid points. Uh, I would tend to agree that roles such as Scrum Master, technical writer, usability experts, they can be shared across teams. But as far as the developers and testers, probably from my own experience, I haven't seen teams being changed very randomly, resources being shifted from one team to another team, uh, because of the intention of cross scaling. Because I would like to drive home a point. If you do that, all your metrics will be will go for a toss, because once a resource is being moved from one team to another team, all your historical data, it's ultimately a function of that particular team. It was constituted by those individuals. Since now you're playing around with that data is no longer valid. So we should keep that in mind. And because it's a very important thing, because all your predictability will be lost then. And as long as we are considering the skilling part, I have seen in one of the organizations, what they used to do, it's a very interesting thing. Instead of moving the resources around, they used to move work to the team. various different types of works to the team, maybe after a long intervals of time, so that the team is really ready for anything for the future. So probably that also can be tried if required in some of the organizations.
Yeah, with this actually, Subrata, I would like to take one more question, which is very much relevant, like how to overcome more burden on resources, on resource when he started among multiple teams. So first of all, as we said in the very beginning, there should be a change of mindset. Like ultimately, we'll have to understand a resource is a human being. So if he or she is supposed to work for 8 hours, they should work only for 8 hours and not beyond that. Because if you start asking someone beyond 8 hours, maybe productivity would be high for some days, maybe for a month, and it is shown in the research that gradually your graph will be coming down. So that management also need to understand. So there should be a change of paradigm shift. And as Subrata rightly pointed, like if we have an agreement that first of all, we won't share the resources, the critical resources like the developer QA across the program, they cannot be shared, first of all. And then if it is something other than this, then what will happen, you will have to have an agreement like, okay, fine, this resource is going to work 50% for this team and 50% for the other team, and that is how we can prioritize the thing. And if something comes up for a particular team, it is very urgent, so they need to work accordingly in the program level, because ultimately we are working for the program, not for any individual team. So that agreement has to be there to counterbalance this. So with this, actually, like Shubhrata, you are talking about some kind of metrics and all these things. So I can understand, like maybe if I talk about any organization, they were taking baby steps towards the implementation of, like uh, agile in program management. And then we have seen there are some issues concerned, like we talked about, Kunal and Chandrima, they talked about certain mindset, and then people are trying to keep the resources on hold for the organization level. So, and cross training of the people, we have seen, like normally what happens, like we know, like teams goes through 4 stages, like forming, storming, norming, performing. So I believe, like we have changed the mindset of the entire organization, and Chandrima was talking about cross train the people. So we have given them training, we coach them, and then we can come to a conclusion after some time, maybe few months, or that team is really performing fine, we are performing fantastic, that we believe as an agile practitioner. But how do we convince the same to the management, like yes, this team is really performing, they are really doing well, and whatever they have invested now, that is actually coming back actually. So can anyone, if you enlighten on that?
Maybe I can start off. Again, from a practical example, I have seen a particular program used to use a set of metrics that ultimately proved to be, very beneficial. Since they were starting off, they really didn't have any idea regarding the load that the program would have to operate on. So they started tracking the number of features that are in progress for that particular program from time to time. And they were also considering the capacity of the program as a whole, and trying to understand whether the program is succeeding or failing, that is within that stipulated, say, 3 or 4 months, are they able to deliver those features. So this particular data regarding the load of the features really helped in, balancing the amount of feature that the program can really work on. This is number one. Number two is, in order to ultimately agile is, being, how quickly are we able to deliver. So in order to understand that, they were using the usual metrics such as lead time and cycle time to understand the speed at which features were being delivered by the program. Thirdly, another thing is the number of features that the team were really completing. So that is, say, within a particular month, how many features are really being, moved to the done state. So that is the throughput part that I am talking about. And also, in order to understand the bottlenecks, they used to draw out the CFD, the community flow diagram, as the features move from one state to another, uh, whether there is constriction at one part, whether some particular state needs more focus, things like that. So these kind of lagging and leading indicators were being used by that particular program. And from my experience, I can say that the program has been doing reasonably well.
Okay, and Chandrima, Kunal, you'd like to put some points on this, if you wish to?
Yeah, actually, what Subrata has mentioned, I mean, as I can say that, yeah, of course, I mean, all of these can be some very good matrices here. Just we also actually do things like this. I mean, not all of this probably we do consider so far, but so I mean, thing is that we can do all of this actually. I've actually learned it from here. That I mean, we can do all of these things, and maybe some other analysis, like maybe the Monte Carlo analysis kind of thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Subrata can. I mean,
Yeah.
Subrata, you were.
Right.
I mean, saying, yeah.
So if you want to have some, grasp on the predictability, if you say you are
Yeah.
not using story points, things like that, and you really want to understand how many features will the program deliver in the, say, coming 90 days. So you can
Right.
go for things such as Monte Carlo analysis, and there are various tools available in the market which you can use readily, and that can be used as an input to the program. So that again, this can be an input for the requirement analyst group, that they are ready with that many number of features. So yes, Monte Carlo how many, and Monte Carlo when, these are the two of the things that the program has been using.
Right.
Chandrima, could you kindly enlighten something if you wish?
Well, Arindam, I see that most of the points are, are covered, but I see over here there is a question that just came onto our panel, that now IT services entering leverage shared model with one resource working on multiple client projects. What are your views on future working model? Well, that's how things are in the current situation, and it's all about technology agnostic. We are not working in like a specific technology every time. It's like when we are dealing with business, we really need to analyze that what is the technology that we would have to, based on the requirement, based on the situation, the technology is decided. So that's why we call it technology agnostic when we are terming it as. So yes, in the client project, and of course it's a kind of a expectation from the new business model as well, that all the technologies should be kind of should come under the same plate. It's not that, okay, this particular person or this particular organization or this particular team is only with with RPA or this cognitive or machine learning. No, that's not. And mostly the projects that we are doing, I'm talking about my current organization also, that the projects that we are doing, mostly they are the amalgamation of one or more different types of technology. So yes, that's something which is coming. And as I said, that cross skilling, or maybe having knowledge about one or more technology is really important to equip this model, future model of, so that resources can be working in different technologies in multiple projects for a client.
Yeah, and also I would like to add a few more things. Like if you are working for the same kind of, like the client that they are having common goal, definitely one resource can be utilized for two clients. But if the things are totally different, probably it is not recommended. And that's why we were talking about that should be a change of mindset within the organization. Like it really
Absolutely,
doesn't,
but
right?
yeah, but in certain situation, when we are into automation, in perspective of automation and robotics, I'm saying, keeping aside other things, out of my experience, as I said, that there can be an amalgamation required of two or more technologies. Okay, so
Right.
that is to get a proper outcome, to create a proper requirement to cater to the needs, business need. So that's where it's very important to have a hands-on experience of for that particular resource who was working in one or more of the technologies that they're working.
Yeah, so before we conclude, let me summarize certain things. Like we talked about certain impediments that a company or that organization might face, like probably change of mindset from the waterfall model to the agile. So that we talked about, and then for that actually we need to cross-train people, and because sometimes we have seen like some of the impediments are coming from the people, like restrict people within that particular team, and then cross utilization of that particular resource. And that time actually we have got the question from the audience also, like they are actually sometimes overburdened, so we need to resolve that by changing the mindset of the people. And then we can also do the better utilization of the things, like if we have a central binding force like a super scrum master, or sometimes in SAFe model we call them as RT. So they do kind of like the central binding, they starting from the requirement, and if any project is having interdependent things, actually any impediments to resolve those. And finally, when we are really performing well, we can show certain metrics to the management, like maybe cycle time, lead time, throughput, all these things, to convince that everything is doing well. And before we conclude, there is one question, in which scenario Monte Carlo technique works well? So this is the last question probably we can take. So can any one of our panelists take this question?
Yeah, Atul, I was seeing that comment, and you are absolutely right. You would really need historical data for Monte Carlo analysis to work. And in fact, if you are using tools, the tools will refuse to churn out anything if you don't have at least, say, some amount of historical data. So in case you don't have a data, you can start off empirically. Yes, you can fail or you can succeed, but maybe after 2-3 quarters, you can have some, idea regarding the number of features that the program is capable of delivering successfully. So that's for a start, and by that time maybe you will have record enough so that things such as Monte Carlo analysis can kick in.
So with this, I will once again hand over to Nupur. We are already end of our time. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arindam. It was a great discussion. Thank you for the facilitation. Thank you, Subrata. Thank you, Kunal and Chandrama. It was a great discussion and some really wonderful insights shared by all of you about program management in Agile way. And we are sure that our audiences has also enjoyed the discussion. So thank you once again to everybody, and thank you to our participants to stay with us during the lunchtime. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Yeah.